And you will then have to buy more buns to use those hot dogs that were bought to finish the original buns. Which conspiracy theory do you believe is true? I've always thought that competition reality shows purposefully send someone home each season that deserves to stay, so that people get mad and talk about it online and get other people interested in watching the show. Last season of MasterChef was so obvious from the beginning who they wanted to win. I can't even remember her name because she wasn't impressive at all and should have gone home early in the competition. The kid who should have won, Nick, was so much more talented, creative, and risky, but they didn't want him to win. He comes from a wealthy family and the woman who did win came from a poor background and has a dead mom. Throwback Thursday was invented so that social media apps, mainly Facebook, could build and develop facial recognition technology showing the faces of people over time. Edit: there are a lot of people replying who don't understand a huge percentage of Facebook users these days are your parents, uncles, aunts and grandparents. They have, literally, decades worth of printed photos sitting in shoe boxes that would never see the light of day again if not for schemes like these. TBT is not for you 20 to 30 somethings who are simply reposting a photo you took in college 10 years ago. David Kelly didn't kill himself. Now, for those who are too young to remember, shortly after 9/11, the US and the UK decided to invade Iraq. The rationale was that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, even though the UN's chief weapons inspector wasn't convinced. A prominent UK weapons expert, one David Kelly, leaked to a journalist that he believed the report alleging WMDs was sexed up in order to give an excuse to go to war, and repeated his claims in front of a parliamentary committee. In so doing, he massively embarrassed the government because he was essentially accusing them of fabricating evidence to give them an excuse to go to a war they'd already decided to fight. 2 days later, Kelly took a huge dose of coproxamol and slit his wrist, severing his ulnar artery, on a walk in the woods near his home. Governments spread wild and crazy conspiracy theories to discredit conspiracy theorists and make them look like lunatics. That way, when someone actually finds a real conspiracy, people will just go, "Oh, it's one of those crazy guys." The line on the laundry detergent measuring cup is higher than it needs to be. There's legitimately a case study from Colgate where they gave the guy $1 million for the idea to increase the diameter of the tube outlet for 1 millimeter. As well as their ads, which always show this perfect brush length stroke with a stiff peak at the end, where numerous dentists confirm that all you need is like a pea-sized drop. A bit more about Colgate. 9/10 dentists recommend virtually means nothing. They could ask, do you recommend Colgate Ultra Shine Suburb Mom White toothpaste or Death by Gout, and by US law it'll pass. You don't see this line in countries with tighter laws on marketing. I had a Vietnamese roommate in college. One time someone mentioned apples and my roommate said he could rip them in half. We all called bullcrap, and so he did it to shut us up. It was pretty cool. But then he claimed that all Vietnamese people can do it. That didn't sound right. So now whenever I meet a new Vietnamese person, I ask, in as polite and not creepy and not racist a way as I can, if they can rip an apple in half, and I'll be damned if every person I've ever asked goes, "Yeah, sure." Also, most of them follow up with, all Vietnamese people can rip apples in half. Then I always ask if that's just how people in Vietnam eat apples, and they always say no, we just eat them the normal way, but all Vietnamese people can rip them in half if they want to. I truly don't know if I'm being trolled or not. If I ask the question and have an apple, I'll always give it to the person who claims they can do this, and they always can, so there's some truth to it. But I cannot figure out why, in my experience, almost all Vietnamese people claim that all Vietnamese people can rip apples in half. That's a weird thing to claim. How are they so sure about what every other Vietnamese person can do? Are they implying that Laotians and Thai people can't do this? Is it a special trick they teach only in Vietnam? I would never claim that all Americans can juggle or that all white people can juggle. See, I don't even know if they're suggesting it's a racial trait or a cultural skill. Or is it that Vietnamese people are just really proud of their culture, so they like to fib about the skills everyone else has? And then when tested with an apple, all Vietnamese people are just so confident that they're awesome enough to do it that they just brute force the apple in half? Or was there a meeting once, and all Vietnamese people realized that they could help each other by making wild fruit claims about the skills of the Vietnamese so that they could trick dumb white boys like me into giving them free fruit to test their powers? I would welcome any data anyone else can offer on this. My sample size is admittedly small, about 8 Vietnamese people, so this could just be a statistical fluke, but when 6 people, who have almost certainly never met each other before, independently claim that all Vietnamese people have fruit powers, it makes you wonder whether it might just be true. Follow-up notes: yes, I understand that plenty of non-Vietnamese folks can rip an apple in half. Hell, I can do it too. That doesn't make the Vietnamese fruit claims that I've experienced less peculiar. Yes, I know that British comedian Bob Mortimer can do this. By my rough estimate from past comments in previous threads, for every Vietnamese person claiming that they've never heard of this, there's another Vietnamese person claiming that all Vietnamese people can rip apples, and yet another non-Vietnamese person who asks a co-worker or an in-law or a friend and learns that they can rip apples. Of that last group, it seems like about half of the Vietnamese people asked had "oh yeah, all Vietnamese people can do that." Let me address all Vietnamese people for a second. If a bunch of people give you free apples to test this, and you like apples, enjoy. If you get a bunch of annoying fruit inquiries that you don't want to deal with, I'm sorry. But really, is it my fault for accurately reporting my experiences with Vietnamese folks, apple ripping, and Vietnamese folks' claims about apple ripping? Or should you really be annoyed at all of my past Vietnamese acquaintances who have made these claims? Anyway, at least hopefully this is more fun for you to talk about than the war. I am a farmer and prices for our commodities in the US have been depressed for 1 to a decade now, with no end in sight. The USDA releases monthly reports on acres planted, projected yield, stocks of grains, etc. My theory is that the USDA makes these numbers up to manipulate the commodities markets to keep the prices at a level that encourages export. We had terrible yields and the lowest number of harvested acres, in corn, across the country last year of the last decade, yet the price you can sell at today is below 1980 price. Why? Exports have slowed, so need to knock the price back. Hope this makes sense. That hot dog manufacturers have a secret agreement with the bun companies to produce different amounts of each product. I don't know the numbers exactly, but for example, you need dogs for a cookout so you buy some, and the only available package size is 8 hot dogs. Then, you go and get some buns which only come in packs of 12. Therefore, once you cook your 8 hot dogs you still have leftover buns, which means you will buy more hot dogs to use those buns. And you will then have to buy more buns to use those hot dogs that were bought to finish the original buns. The cycle continues. 2 that I think are legit. The National Child Identification Program, the one that offers parents the chance to get their children photographed, fingerprinted, document noticeable scars, ailments, etc., is really just a ploy for the government to gather as much information willingly from the populace under the guise of keeping your children safe. Certain things are being changed or eliminated to promote consumerism. Home economics, woodshop, etc. are no longer taught in many schools. Headlights on your car that you previously could change for $5 now cost $125 and must be done by the dealer or mechanic. Planned obsolescence means products are designed to fail, so consumers must consistently buy new products. So on and so forth. Like and subscribe for more r/ask Reddit videos.